Before starting my presentation, I would like to express my gratitude to the organizers of this conference and for their friendship and for this very precious initiative and opportunity. Reverend Fathers, distinguished professors, beloved friends, brothers and sisters. The title of my presentation today is Theological Education in the Service of the Church Today, the Legacy of Balamand. The tradition of teaching theology in Balamand was inaugurated in 1833 when the Holy Orthodox Patriarchate of Antioch and all the East obtained an Ottoman Sultanic decree granting her the legal right to open her own seminary in the Holy Patriarchal Monastery of Our Lady of Balamand. Later on, historical circumstances that occurred during the 19th and the 20th century yielded a variety of challenges facing the Antiochian Church and the Balamand Seminary. These challenges have gradually consolidated our contemporary vision of theology and its role in presenting a living witness to the world today. The Antiochian school today is distinguished by two characteristics. Firstly, it carries an insightful sensitivity to the pastoral needs in our temporary world. And secondly, it bears a spirit of openness and dialogue. As a matter of fact, even Orthodox theological education is facing nowadays numerous challenges, making the need of revisiting our work in our faculties a major concern and a priority. The goal of this endeavor is to preserve and enrich theological education, since it is an essential tool for serving the church. Like many other churches, Antioch faces many difficulties at the local level and abroad. The questions that society asks today, whether ethical, scientific, or existential, and the new situations in which the faithful find themselves, defy contemporary man and tempt him or her to lose faith and surrender either to atheism with its various forms or to Oriental spiritualities and sects and other religious directions, or complete indifference, confusion, agnosticism, and alienation. A major issue that needs to be tackled is as follows. How can our academic planning, visions, teaching methods, research and networking be proactive and anticipate newly arising challenges in order to put the human being in front of his or her real needs and not the fake ones? Starting from the Balamand's legacy of teaching theology and providing the church with well-equipped ministers, teachers, and scholars, I shall try today to shed light on some of the major needs and priorities of Orthodox theological education in our fast-changing modern world. I will expose my view in 8 consecutive points. So number 1, multidisciplinary approaches to theology. There is no horizon of creativity and ingenuity in theology in our days without entering in a deep dialogue with the sciences of this age, exactly as the church fathers did throughout history. The ultimate aim of this effort is to break the barriers between theology and contemporary man, or between man and the church. Theological sciences remain inapt to reach the life of man and to address his mind and consciousness if they do not open the door widely to multidisciplinary approaches combining in their methods and tools social and positive sciences, because other sciences as well as secular thought, I repeat, other sciences as well as secular thought provide Christian thinking with the most important questions related to man, his society, his life, his needs, and his destiny. This steps requires a thorough knowledge of theology, a rigorous study and training program providing the new generation of theologians with the needed background, method, and content in order to lead research and discussion in a correct direction. Of course, dialogue between faith and science remains unproductive if we are not deeply knowledgeable in theology and well exposed to contemporary, fast-developing sciences and trends of thought. Of course, Father Chad knows well that Dan and Jane Henshaw have been coming to Baladband for 5 consecutive years now and teaching in our pastoral care courses, and many other people from all over the world. So, point number 2, institutional and organizational specificity. Christian academic theology ought to remain a science in the service of the church. The paradigm of reducing theology to a branch of religious studies, even in some of the most prestigious European universities, renowned for their long and rich tradition of theological education, should not become a model to be followed in our Orthodox centers of theological education, even though financial or administrative constraints often force institutions to refer to such policies and measures. Orthodox theology as a genuine expression of the phronema of the church should definitely remain distinct from other valuable, very valuable branches of religious studies in our universities. Our University of Balamand, for example, has much succeeded in hosting a center for religious and cultural dialogue and another center of Christian-Muslim studies as autonomous entities within the broader umbrella of the Faculty of Social Sciences. Thus, our university preserves a clear distinction between theology as the science expressing the faith we hold and other branches of religious speculation. This does not mean that the curriculum of theological studies does not necessarily include courses on other religions and dialogue with them. Number 3, preserving balance between theoretical and empirical knowledge. A major aspect of Orthodox education is the holistic approach to the human existence and to the human person. In the framework of educational processes, man should be considered in the entirety of his being, namely his body, soul, mind, senses, etc. Theological institutions should be vigilant about nourishing all the dimensions of human life and activity. Thus, a major educational priority in our theological faculties is to inspire students and assist them in joining what is theoretical in theology with the lived and experienced foundation of the church faith, connecting theoretical teachings with prayer and the sacramental life as the genuine manifestation of Christ in the midst of his people. This is, of course, mostly applicable in seminaries. However, the terminology experience between double brackets has acquired in our days a suspicious connotation, especially in the light of the subjective spiritual experiences that are being spread here and there and that deviate from the genuine philocalic spirit of orthodoxy or of the church. This issue requires from our institutions a special attention and a great deal of responsibility in preparing the servants and the future teachers of the church and in training them in a spirit of discernment. We need to encourage insightful criticism, mainly self-criticism, so that the future priest and theologian may succeed in making the right decisions and in relating properly what he knows with what he lives and what he offers to his parish or spiritual children or students or readers. Number 4, pastoral orientation of academic theology. We need in our pastoral studies to open the path of reconciliation between man and the church, the prodigal son and the house of the father. We also need to work for finding the means to bring back the church to inside the homes of people and to attract families to church. In order to achieve this, we must pinpoint at the real needs of man and the problems which challenge his life, whether on the local or the global levels. Thus, our faculties are urged to establish laboratories, workshops, and research centers that give an importance or even a priority to pastoral observation, planning, and work, contributing in such a manner in defining the scope of their research activity and applied teaching. Let us mention a few of the questions which require clear answers provided by our pastoral workshops. Which kind of spiritual life do we need now in our societies? How do we protect today the Christian family? How do we revive the participation of the believers in sacramental life? How is it possible for us to make liturgical life more dynamic and efficient? How can we reach those people who are far or even separated from the church? What is the role of the priest and the church in making the pastoral mission more effective? How do we grant youth and women the appropriate role they deserve in the work and life of the church? Many more are the questions which each of them requires more than one conference in order to be well addressed in different sociocultural contexts. Number 5, resourcefulness and horizons of collaboration between institutions. It is not any more acceptable in our era not to benefit from the modern technical means of research, communication, and the commuting facilities for the sake of exchanging our experiences as well as our capital of resources, databases, and references. We ought to make use of all what digital technology offers us in order to preserve information and transmit it with some academic generosity in conveying what we possess to others. Our faculties today cannot be content with their libraries, private collections, and human resources. There ought to exist a spirit of exchange and cooperation for our work to succeed. The horizon of cooperation extends to reach possibilities of creating communication networks among faculties, whether for the sake of consulting each other, exchanging professors, students, and researchers, or organizing common workshops and common periodic conferences which can lead through the encounter of different experiences to enriching the curriculum and finding new ideas that stimulate our work and widen its horizons. Point number 6, research, strategies, and focuses. Our faculty's research must consider the questions, challenges, and worries of the modern mind. We ought to have in our faculties clear policies, orientations, and visions regarding the theological needs of today. Are we asking the correct, necessary, and constructive questions, or we are rather satisfied with these we got used to, even though they might be ineffective and irrelevant to man today? Are we capable in our researches of returning to the heart of the worries of society and to its forums which address man and civilization? Or are we still stagnant and locked in a marginal state which makes of our research endeavors a superficial discourse, not touching man and not capable of addressing him or her? We have a need to commit ourselves to the service of modern and the postmodern societies, not to subdue man, church, and theology to these patterns of culture, but rather to penetrate into modern man's concerns, to find a way into his heart and mind, and to touch his true needs, which ought to form alone the motives that define the priorities of our research. If we do so, we will be faithful to the Church Fathers who knew, through a thorough effort of inculturation, how to address and preach their epoch with the true faith. Point number 7, new educational trends and teaching methods. Online theological education has imposed itself nowadays as an efficient tool in communicating theological knowledge and faith. However, we need to emphasize interactive approaches and methods of online teaching. Information is available everywhere on internet, but the experience of mentorship is the most needed priority, which proved its efficiency throughout the history of Christian schools of theology. And the last point, number 8, the culture of openness and dialogue. A major priority in our educational strategies in Balamand is to grant the students the opportunity of encountering a large variety of social, cultural, and religious contexts they need to be acquainted with in order to enrich the horizon of their understanding of man, man being the ultimate book of God. By acquiring a healthy religious perception of otherness as a mystery enriching our identity and experience, students realize that theology is a call to an open dialogue, a dialogue with God, with society, and with all creation. This attitude of openness, enhanced in the framework of theological studies, renders the students capable of addressing their society and serving their neighbor. Students equipped with a spirit of openness and dialogue become true messengers of peace and reconciliation and bearers of hope and faith. They become true vessels of the Comforter Spirit of God. In conclusion, I would note that the most imminent challenge for our theological faculties and workshops remains the consideration of the intellectual and moral challenges of the modern and postmodern eras. We do not have the right as schools of theology to deprive believers from providing accurate and clear answers to daily questions that they hunt them. They need clear guidance to face today's various issues that push them to doubt the importance of their church belonging and their living of the Lord's gospel. We are urged in such a context to work together as institutions and as scholarly communities to intensify our initiatives of encounter and exchange of experiences, information, methods and ideas in order to continuously evaluate the new experience our society and history are providing us with in a fast-changing world. Conferences like ours today should help us collaborate and create committees of continuous work and follow-up. Then our initiatives shall bear fruits 30 and 60 and 100 for the glory of God. Thank you.